Hello everyone and welcome back to Xamarin Forms tutorial videos. In this video we will talk about resource dictionaries and their styling. So first of all, what are we going to talk today? We'll do a quick recap of whatever we learned so far. And in this video we are going to talk about how do we style our user interface, why it is important to style the user interface. Then we'll talk about how to achieve that. We'll use the resources, we'll talk about how to use a resource dictionary, and then we will go into the detail how we can build the resource dictionary by using the colors and by using the styles. So let's quickly recap how the UI structure looks like. So the heart of the UI form application is you have a page. There are different kind of pages we spoke in the previous videos. Inside a page, you define a layout. It could be stack, absolute, relative, or the scroll view or the grid. And then inside a layout, you define the different kind of views. Views are you can have a label, entry, date picker, all of those building blocks which make the visual area on the view. There are different kind of form pages based upon the type of application you are building and the type of data you are collecting from the user or you're displaying something. We have a content page, master detail, navigation, tabbed, and other pages. If you are not familiar with these pages, please watch the previous videos. You will get all of the detail about them. Okay, so now let's talk about why application UI styling is important. For smoother look and feel. You want all the controls to have the same color scheme and other properties based upon their usage. When you are building any application, you want users, to have a smooth experience. You don't want one text box bigger and another text box with a different size and the third text box with a different size. Then you want, when you are building an application, now you want to expand that application with the different color schemes. You want your application to be designed in such a way that you can easily change your colors and your themes without changing the base code of your application. So you can define the styles, you can abstract them away instead of hard coding into the controls. And how can we do that? We will talk in this video. So what is a resource? A resource is a definition of an object which can be used more than once. So for example, you are using a label control, you are using a text box control, and inside the text box control you are using a property, for example say color, right? So if you are building your application with many label controls or many text box controls and you want all of the text box colors to be blue, right? So you can define that color property as a resource. Going further than only the color, you can define the entire style as a resource also. If you are from a web background, you can consider styles like a CSS where you can just define all of the properties in a class and then you can just use that class to define the theme for that. And then the control templates, you can also define the entire layout as a resource and you can use that. This is equivalent to the master pages inside if you have a web background, but we will discuss the control templates into the next video. Right now we'll just focus on how we can use the resources. So what is a resource dictionary? Uh, don't worry, we'll go into the demo. We will discuss all of those things, but a little bit theory before we go into the demo. So we spoke about the resource and now the resource dictionary. Anytime you are defining a resource, you always have to define a resource inside a resource dictionary, and then you can pull out from the dictionary and you can use them one by one. The real definition is the resource dictionary allow resources to be defined in a single location and reused throughout the Xamarin Form application. So you can define the resource in a dictionary and then you can, when you want to retrieve them, you can retrieve them by the static resource. For example, you see here we can define the resource dictionary. We are using color, we define the custom color name, and then when we need to use that in the label property, we just use that by the static resource property. So now let's go back to the demo and actually see how the resources work. Uh, I'm doing my demo on Xamarin Studio on Mac, but you can do the same thing on Microsoft Visual Studio on Windows platform also, and you will exactly get the same results. I will make a new app. I will give it a name, Learning Styles. Actually, I will give it a name, Learning Resources. I will use a portable class library. We spoke about all of these things in the previous video, so if you have any question, you can go back to the previous videos, or you can leave a comment in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I recently upgraded my Xamarin Studio, and now they brought a very beautiful thing, Xamarin Forms preview. So now you don't have to rerun your application every time to see how does it look like. You can actually exactly see it right away. So let's see the structure. We have the common code, and we have the Droid and iOS. That's how it deploys to the various platforms. You can watch the previous videos if you want to see to the detail how this structure works. So when we run this application, see the thing I was talking about, now we have this previewer. If we are making any changes in this page, you will see that right away. So you have to build it first time. Let's write some code. Okay, so now you see on the right hand side the preview of the form page which we are going to write. So I will take this thing away, and I will first bring a stack layout. We usually always use a stack layout when we are writing something inside that. I will use horizontal option as center. I will give vertical options as center. Okay, now I will start writing my code. I will say that I'm a label, and my text is enter your name. Next to that, I will use a property called we have another view called entry. My name, and then I will give a heading to this application. I will say that this is also a label, and I want to say that this is a registration form. Now along with my name, I also want to grab some more information. So I will write down enter your age, my age, enter your address, my address, and then enter your study. You will see that on the right hand side it is making those things right away. You hit Control I and it will format your code. This is a very nice shortcut. So now what I want to do, I want to change this registration form size to, I will say that I want to change its color to text color to, I want to say that this thing should always come in blue, right? And I want to say that enter your name, this thing should come in text color should be red, and I want everything else to be in the red. So what I have to do now is I have to copy this entire thing to all of the pages, sorry, all of the form, all of the controls, and if I have multiple pages I might have to do the same thing. Now also I want to say that the background of these text boxes, in web we say text boxes, in Xamarin we say that these are the entry, but I have to say that I will say the background color is yellow. So now because I want to replicate same thing on all of these controls, I have to copy and paste this thing on all of these controls. And this is a small app which we are building right now. Consider that you are working on multi-pages app uh, where you want to use these colors. So we are just taking an example to clarify the idea. What can we do right now? So if we run this app, because we have the preview installed, you will exactly see the same things on uh, the actual simulator also, but I just want to show that you get exactly the same thing. But with the preview installed, you get you save a lot of time instead of running that app. So now let's come back to our resource thing. So now let's try to change this text colors to something generic. So for example, if I have to change this red to blue, my boss says that, hey, I don't want those the red color, I want blue. So I need to go to every control and I need to make those changes. And if I have many pages, I need to do that thing also. So how do we define color as an abstraction? So color can be defined as an abstraction in the dictionary and can be used in any page or control. How do we define that? So just like we spoke, you define the resource dictionary and then you use the keyword color. You define the key, that what will be the key. Key could be any custom name. So you can say that this is my heading color, this is my body color, this is my background color, and then you can define the value for that. And then when you are using that inside the application, instead of just using the name yellow or blue, means the real absolute value, you can use the key. So now you have abstracted out uh, the actual color inside the application. So you can change the name, you can change the value of the color inside in the resource dictionary anytime, and it will automatically affect your entire application. So now let's try to abstract all of this information. So what I will do is I will define the resource content dot, I will define the resources. So inside the resources, what we need to define is the resource dictionary. Resource dictionary. Okay, so we have defined the resource dictionary. What I want to define in the very first time. So my first dictionary content will be color. So I will say color, and then you say the key. My key is, I want to say, okay, text color. I will say text color, and then I will say red here. So see this thing. This is how, let's examine this thing a little more. So what we did, originally we defined resources wrapper, that inside the resources we are going to define the resource dictionary. And inside the dictionary, now we will start defining the properties. Actually, these are the resources. Now I have defined one resource, and the resource is color. I can also define another resource, and I can say that my text color, and I can say that text bg color is yellow. So far I'm just defining these properties. I'm not using these properties anywhere. So how will I use it now? As we saw in the presentation before, to actually use these values now, so what I can say, okay, here I was saying red, this text color is equal red. I can replace this thing with, I will say static resource, and what will be key I want to use, I will say text color. So I will put it here, text color. And now I can change this thing to all of the rest of the controls also, but now I'm doing it only once. I don't need to do it again. You see that? So your result is still same. You still see all of your colors are still red. And now if your boss comes and he says that, no, I don't want the red color, I want blue, so you change it only once. See, we changed it here, and all of these things are changed from here. I hope it was not complex. So now let's try to go a little bit in the next level. So now let's fix this yellow background also. We have defined this yellow background here, and now we have used it here, and I will say static resource, and I will just copy paste from here bg color this, and now we can change this thing to this, and this. Yep. But we have already fixed it. Sometimes it takes a while to change that. In the meantime, we can try running the application. Yeah, in the meantime, it also rebuild that stuff. You see, it is still same thing. So now if I have to change the design of my app, instead of the yellow background, I want to make it a red background. This is what I have to do. So basically, when you are designing the application, you sometimes designer is working on the design and the developer is only focusing on the coding. This is how you can abstract out the design and the code. Okay, let's add a new page. So let's expand our application with more pages. I will add a new page. I will call it so you always add a form content page with a XAML, unless you just want to write all of your code in C#. Page 2 reg 2, it means I want to add another registration page. My application is very complex. It is taking a lot of form components. I will add a third page also, just to make things very clear. I will say that page 3 reg 3 means it's a registration page 3. This will be this one, and we are assuming that the registration form will be exactly same. So I will just copy this content. It might have, in the real life scenario, it might have more text boxes, more buttons, and more kind of components to that. Yep, you see that. So page 2 looks exactly same, page 3 looks exactly same. So now what happens, my boss comes in and he changes his mind and say that the registration form color should be actually red. So now what I have to do, I have to go to page number 1 and I say that the text color should be red. So it immediately changed here. Okay, it's we never bound it to any of the properties. So let's continue the example. Actually, because we didn't bind it to this one, what I have to do is I have to actually define another property, and I will say that text heading color, it was blue, and I will say that okay, it needs to be red. And now I will say here static resource text heading color. So okay, it turned into red. So now I have to do the same thing on 3 pages. That is a very boring job. um, so what is the solution for that? It means that, as we spoke, now we need to go one level up. We need to define these kind of variables on the application level. So what are resource dictionary levels? So we recently saw that we did define some of the resources, and then we use those resources to consume those values. You might have noticed that we did define those resources within a page, within a content page. What will happen if I need to create another content page? Can I use those properties in a different content page also? No, because you did define them inside the content page. So in that kind of scenario, you have to define those resources on the global level. Global level means you need to define them on the application level. So there are 3 different levels which you can use. You can define any kind of resources within a resource dictionary on the application level. We'll go through the demo within few seconds. So if you define there, you can use throughout any number of pages. You don't need to define them in every page. But if some of your pages need some custom attention, you can also define them in a page level. If any of your page contains multiple layouts and you want to have different styling within those layout, depends upon your application, You can define them on the control level also. You can define a stack layout. Maybe you have a uh, you know scroller view, and inside the scroller view you have two different stack layouts, and you want the different colors to happen in those stack layouts. You can define that also. So you can use these tools based on your requirement. Let's take a quick demo on resource dictionary levels. So now we have to define that property on the application level. And how do we define that on the application level? You go to the app.xaml. If you go to the app.xaml, you will see that they have already defined application.resources, but by default it is always empty. So what we need to do here now, I think by now you know that the first thing is you define the application resource dictionary. See, this resource dictionary is independent of where do you define that. Now we are defining the resource dictionary on the application level. In this page we are still using the same resource dictionary, but because it was in the content view, this is on the page level. You can also do the same thing inside the stack layout or any of the layout also. That is called the layout level thing. So inside this I need to take this thing away, and I need to put that thing here. That's it. So now we have defined text heading color on the application level. And if we go back here, we'll see that this is red. If we go to page 2, you see that this is also red. The reason why it is looking small because it was not zoomed out. And if you go to page 3, you see that this is also red. So now this is application level, and we still have these properties. These properties are defined on the page level. Now let's mix the scenario. You make another registration form. You call it, let's give the same name, page 4. Page 4 reg 4, right? And as usual, it's almost gonna be same. I will copy from here and I will copy from here. Okay, so just like it will take a couple of seconds to build, but the scenario in this one is, the scenario is now I want to use the same naming convention just like it was here, but I don't want the red color. This is some exception. So there are two options. One of the option, you define that property here, right, with a different name, and then you use that different name here. But if you have the object oriented and inheritance experience behind the scenes, you can, so now this is picking that property from the application level. You can override this property on your level, and you can say this thing anything else. Yep, see, now it is coming the blue one, and if you go to the other things, it will come as the red one. So far we were only talking about the single property, color. We can only change the color. What about if we want to go beyond the colors? I want to customize the font size also. I want to customize the boldness of my label control. I want to customize the width, how I want to do it, left lined or center lined. And now I want all of my labels to be left lined. I want all of them to be bold. How do I do that? We do that by the styling. Now styling is exactly which we were talking about, equivalent to CSS, cascading style sheets. So styling allows the appearance of visual element to be customized. Styles are defined for a specific type and contain values for the properties available on that type. What do we mean by the specific type? So you need to exclusively say that this style is going to be defined for the label, or this is for the text box, or this is for the button. First of all, we will define the explicit style. What is explicit style? That an explicit style is one that is selectively applied to the control by setting their style properties. And you see the example right here. So I'm defining a style. Of course, you are wrapping it inside the resource and the resource dictionary, and you can still have it on all the levels. You can define it on application level, content page level, or the layout level also. So you define the style name, and you define the target. Now this is the target. You say that I'm defining it for the label, or I'm defining it for the text box or the entry box. You can say the target type as the base class, like just view, and then you can use any of the view, but you can be explicit also. And then you use setter and the value. So in the setter property, you say that what property you want to set. For example, in this example, I'm setting the horizontal option. You might have seen in all of my videos, I always say that horizontal option center and vertical option center. So now going forward, we can save all of the time by just defining a style. So all you need to do is just inherit from that style, and then you can add as many properties as you want, and you use it exactly in the same way, just by saying that static resource name is whatever the style name it is. Let's see a quick demo. Okay, let's continue with the same example. So this is our first page, right? So now we have now our requirement came up that now we want to change the font size of all of the labels. We had only blue color so far, and the font size we didn't define, but requirement came up, we want to define the font size also. So now we expand. You see that this is a list. If you have done C#, there is a generic list. So this, all of the resources are a list under the resource dictionary. So now we are going to define a property called style, and whenever you define a style, we say X key. When you are using dictionaries, you're always using key value pair. So key is always a string where you define the index key for that property, and the value is it could be, in the case of color it was just a string value, but now it will be an actual object, actually again a list of all of those properties. So you define this, and then you say target type. So what is the target we are defining right now? We are saying that I'm defining this style only for label. Sorry, I misspelled target type and label control. Okay, and here I can define all of the properties. So first property which we are interested in, we'll say we use the keyword setter, and we'll say property. Okay, which property we're interested in? We want to say the font color. How we say the font color? I will quickly do a cheat sheet. I will copy the font size. So this is how we use the font size. Okay, what is the size required? That will come in the value. Okay, we want 20 size. Beautiful. Okay, we also want them to be bold, and that property is called font attribute bold, right? So I can use it like this. I can say setter. Okay, now my property will be font attribute, and its value will be bold. Beautiful. And let's change its, we can do the color in the second format, control I. So now how do I use this property? Okay, label control, this will go here. Let's start with the first one, and here I will say that I want to use the style, and you use it exactly in the same way. You say that static resource space, you say the label control, and see right away it started using that. And now I can take this and I put it in rest of the labels also. I must have messed up something. Yes, I did that. And then I can put it in this label. See, they are taking effect right away. So because I was using the color blue, see now I getting the error, and guess what is the reason? I have used a resource which I have defined for label, but I'm using it inside an entry. That's why I'm getting an error. It will not work. So I have to take it back and put it inside the label. So now let's go a little advanced now. because I'm already using the color property. Previously I was using the color exclusively, but now I have already defined, a style for that. I can bring that color also here. Two things I can say. This option I can say, this was a background color, right? I can say background color, we were using blue, so I can say blue, one option. If I say red, okay, this is not there. See, if I say red, it is overriding whatever we have defined here, but I want to use same which is already defined. So I can also see this thing. See, we can static resource, and the name what I want to use is what we are using here, text color. I can take this thing and I can use that here also. So you can recursively use those controls. For example, maybe you have defined this control on your application level and that's what you want to use now. You can do that thing also. No one is stopping you to do that. Actually, basically it was a foreground, just a text color. Sorry, I used the wrong name before. See, now everything is all set. So this property is actually just defining the color, but this one is defining the overall style for that property. I mean, this is amazing. You won't even believe that how you can control your entire app just by defining those few properties. And if you want to change something, all you need to do, just change one property. Okay, you want it bigger? No problem. See, you go bigger. You want it smaller? Okay, no problem. You make it smaller. This becomes so fun to do that. Okay, so now let's go one step further. You have many labels in your application. You have many text boxes in your application, and you want all of them to look same. So what you will do, you will define a style property, you will define the setters, and then you will go to each label and you will say that style is equal to this, style is equal to this, blah 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 blah. But you know that they're all always gonna be same. So now you can define implicit style. What does it mean? That you can define a style which is going to be used by all controls of the same target type. So you don't need to define it, individually, and it's very easy. What you need to do, you do exactly the same thing what you defined before, but instead you do not define the key value for that. So it will automatically assume that this is for all of those controls. Let's take a quick demo on that. We will continue to our old application. So this is our application where we recently created a label control which contains a lot of properties for the label. Currently it is serving the blue color, bold, and the font size 10. Let me make the font size a little bigger, and I want to use all of my application to use this. So what we need to do, remember, we will take off the key value of this one, and now we can actually remove all of these properties. Sorry, I'm in the wrong one, this one. So you delete this, you delete this, okay, see, results are still same because we have defined that this style is gonna work for target type label, so it will always work for them. So now let's define another style, just to make it little consistent. Let's define the style for entry. Entry means all of the text boxes. So far they are not attached to any style, so whatever we define, it should automatically use that. And here I can say background color, and if I say yellow here, it should not use because it is already using one of them. See, we took it off and it automatically took the values from the base one. This is the beauty of using the implicit style. So now you see basically you have nothing defined here. If you see clearly, you have nothing defined here, and you can still control all the colors from here. Okay, you want the background red, okay, no problem. You want it blue, no problem. So now you want this thing to be applied to all of your application. See, rest of the pages are still having some different colors, right? But you want everything to look like this one. Oh, this is also blue. Sorry, you want this one to look like this one, right? You want this. So what you will do now, you will upgrade this stuff to application level. And how you do that, you will just cut from here and you go to the app layer and you just put it here. Okay, so the global style, this is the same term like if you're defining any resources on the application level, they're also called the global style. So just don't get confused if you're talking to somebody and they're saying that it is, what is the global style. So for example, we recently moved a lot of our stuff to the application level. So if you see here, you see this yellow, you see this yellow, and you see this yellow. So this is all global. So now, okay, your boss says that, okay, I want all of my labels to be in the red color. So you go here and you change that. Okay, my label should be red. You're all set. Now you go back to all of your pages, they're all red. And the funny part is, see, there is nothing attached to this one also. So this is all abstracted out. Okay, now he comes back and he say that, okay, I want all of my text boxes background to be red. So all what you do, you go to the app stuff and you change the background color to red. So all of your stuff is red now. Okay, another very important concept in when doing the styling is the inheritance, that we can utilize the inheritance in this one also. Suppose you have defined two different styles. One says is color is yellow and alignment is center, and another you have another style which says color is blue but alignment is also center. So you might have many properties. We are just talking about only two properties. You might have many properties which are common in those different kind of styles. So what you can do, you can actually leverage the inheritance, to extract out those common properties into the base property, and then you can inherit from that base property to the base style to make your own custom style. So you don't have to redefine those things. So actually you should not have any duplicacy in your code. At any point of time you are thinking that, oh, I'm rewriting the same line of code again, I wrote it before. Yes, break out, do the refactor. So the way we accomplish inheritance in the style in the resource dictionaries is, you define the base style just like the normal way you are defining any style, but when you are going to derive from that base style, you just mention that this style is based upon this existing style, and you just use the static resource property as we always use to extend from that. Let's do a quick demo on that. Let's take one of the existing example. Let's take this page 3 example. This is how it was looking right now. If I change the horizontal options from here, so it will look like this. See, it is all aligned to the left or right, and now I start saying that, let me clean it out. Actually, let me make it a little small to make it more precise. And this one, I say that, horizontal options are right. You see that it will horizontal option are end, actually, sorry, it goes to the end, and here it says that horizontal option always goes to end. So I'm redefining these two things again and again just to mention that, this thing is on the right hand side and these things are on the left hand side. Let me bring some of the properties from this one to our page so that we can see everything on one page. So now, so far, you already know the concept how you can define things on the page level or on the application level. So basically what I need to do, I need to take these horizontal options from sorry, this will be the property which will go here, and here we will say end. And now I will take the same property and I will do it here, right? So this is how we will accomplish that actually. So if we have to do that, I will remove it from here also. Okay, so but now we have redefined the same property twice, right? We have done the same property twice, and there was another property which we reused so far, was the font attribute property, because it was bold. We use it twice. So now how we can extract it out to, the base property? So the way you define the base property is nothing more than anything which you are defining the style before. All you need to do is just give it name. X key, you can give any name. You are not bound to any specific name. So you can say, for example, I will say base style. And target type, you can give target type, you will say that, now I will say view. View is the base property for any kind of view. Text box, entry cells inherit from view, um, your labels inherit from the view, list view, and all of those properties inherit from the view. So I'm just say that target type is view, and I will grab this property and I will put it here. I will grab this property also and I will put it here. And you see that because we are removing these properties from there, on the right hand side you might see that there are some changes. Okay, let me do Control I. Everything is built. Now why it is giving error? Because it is not built. Font attribute property on the view. You are right, font attribute property. I will just take it off for now. Okay, you see that everything is left line, but I want everything to be right lined. So how do we do that? So it means now I need to inherit from this one. So what I will do, in this style has to inherit from this one. In this one I will say based on what? Based on static resource, and the name of our static resource is base style. And I am missing one thing, curly braces, which you might normally forget. See, everything is moved from left to right, and right is set by end. And I can do the same thing to here also. See, that is also moved to the right hand side. So now the base style, if I change the base style, see, it will be applicable to all of its derived classes also. So this is the concept of inheriting the style. Okay, so let's see what did we learn so far. We spoke about what is the UI consistency, what are the resource dictionaries, how do we make those resource dictionaries. Inside the dictionary, how do we define the resources. We spoke about two resources, color and the style. We spoke about how you can define those styles on the application level, page level, or on the control level. We didn't actually go into the control level, but I'm pretty sure that you understood the concept and you can do that now. Then we spoke about different types of styles. You can define them explicitly. It means that you give it a name to the style, and then you have to go to that control type and you say that, okay, this is what I want to use, just like you use the CSS. You can also define them by explicitly. You just define that, okay, this is the style for label. All of the labels will use that unless any label is using any explicit style. Global styles, they are similar to the app style. Anything you define in the app level, that is global. And very important, we also spoke about the inheritance. You can define all of the common properties. Actually, we'll call it properties. You define all the common properties in a base style, and then you inherit from the base style to use your own classes. So guys, that was pretty much it for today's lecture. I was actually building the lecture for the content view, how you can actually define a content template just like the master page. But in order to do that, we need to understand the concept, how you define the resource dictionaries and how you use that. So that's why I had to make this video before I make the content video. So thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and watching all of those videos and all of your comments. If you have any question, please feel free to write any comment in the comment box, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Happy coding. Bye bye.